106.9 SFM.
Now, I'm very pleased to be joined in the studio this afternoon by the Kent Police Commissioner, Anne Barnes, who has been chair of the Kent Police Authority for some years now, but she was publicly elected in November of last year. I was going to ask you, Anne, for the first question. The job title changed, but did the job actually change?
Oh, the job has changed enormously, Tony, absolutely enormously. I was the leader of a group of people, a board of people, and now, of course, there's just me. And for the first time ever, the people of Kent have actually got a focal point, one person they can recognise as their voice in policing and public safety in the county. So the job is really, really different.
And how have you found the changes?
Well, I like a change anyway, Tony. I think it's always good to have a new challenge. I was elected back in November, and I was really, really humbled by the scale of the vote I got. I was stunned, actually, because the confidence that local people showed in me was overwhelming, because I actually won this election in every district and every constituency, because the people of Kent said they actually didn't want a party politician in charge of their police, and they haven't got one. They've got somebody who's truly independent, and I took an oath in November as Police and Crime Commissioner, saying that, you know, I am the link between local people, local communities and the police, and there will actually be no party political interference in any decision making to do with policing here in the county.
And I've noticing the other day that the Home Secretary, Theresa May, put in some new measures to increase trust in the police. How do you think the residents of Kent view their police force?
Well, you know, I've been out and about, as I promised to be. I promised to be the most visible and the most accessible Police and Crime Commissioner in the country. And to date, Tony, you won't believe this, but I have visited 26 different towns and villages in this county, and I've only been in post for 3 months. And there is an absolute respect for local policing here in Kent. There's particularly a respect for the visible community policing. You know, our community police, our neighbourhood police are really well respected. I did read Theresa May's work around, trying to boost trust in the police, because trust is everything, and once you lose it, it's hard to get it back. But, you know, there are thousands of acts of kindness every day that our police force do. They're really honest and they're really professional, but it only needs one person, and that trust and that respect goes. So I think part of my job is to make sure that we all take a balanced look and we all realise what a good job our police force does in Kent. They don't always get it right, but they do most of the time.
Because I was going to
do a very different job to police officers. But if you look at Kent Police, it's a very sophisticated organisation. If you want somebody in your serious and organised crime division, you're going to look for seasoned detectives to do that kind of work. Those are the people you're going to recruit. But if you're looking for visible community policing, that is done more often than not by PCSOs. They are a very, very valued part of the wider policing community. So jealously guarded by their communities. The only criticisms I get from people are when their PCSO is removed. I don't know if you've got a PCSO, Tony, in your area, but I certainly do in my village. I live in Lyminge, and Gary, his name is, and he is part of our village, and he knows exactly what goes on in our village.
Yeah, which is, as you say, very valuable. The reverse of that, though, is, of course, that to make efficiency savings, a lot of areas have lost their police station. What impact has that had?
I think people just felt because they lost their police station that they'd lost their police. But, policing is not bricks and mortar. Policing is actually talking to people and having the police presence. I'm also putting in place during the year a fleet of mobile police stations to go round the county. So people shouldn't think because their police station is closed. And it's closed because it's not being used, actually, Tony. I know one police station who actually had 3 people per week walking through the door. And when you're losing staff and people are being made redundant, you cannot keep open bricks and mortar that people didn't go into. But I think it's being able to access their police, and by access I actually mean talk to them. Our police PCSO Gary, who I was talking about not long ago, he looks after 4 villages now. He used to look after 2, but he now looks after 4. But I know exactly how to contact him. I know exactly where he's going to be when. And that's important to me. I don't need a police station in my village because I know how to access my PCSO.
Another high-profile story recently was to get more people into higher grade jobs. They were going to be fast-tracked. Was that misreported, and is that a good thing?
I'm very open-minded about it, actually, Tony, and I'm looking forward to the consultation findings from the Home Office. It takes, on average, 24 years for someone to reach Chief Constable level. They start at the bottom and work their way up. And there is a proposal that at Inspector level and at Superintendent level that there will be the opportunity for real high flyers to join. But there aren't going to be that many of them. They're talking nationally of 40 superintendents going using this system. Well, there are 43 police forces. There aren't going to be very many. But, why not be open-minded? Why not run a few pilots and see? As long as the people they lead have got credibility and faith in them, then let's try it. Let's be open-minded. But I'm more relaxed than most because we've had over the years a swap with South Australia Police. And we've swapped at superintendent level. That's a very senior level. And we've had people from South Australia running, you probably don't know this actually, running our large policing areas. And they've done a really good job. But the nonsense is, if they wanted to come to Kent and transfer to Kent, they'd have to start at the bottom again. Well, that's absolutely a nonsense. So let's be open-minded about it. Let's not be a bit precious.
And what do you think are the biggest challenges facing you in the future?
Money. It's always money. The police force in Kent has lost 1/5 of its funding. That's £53 million. It will be losing, by the end of next year, 1/5 of its workforce. Good people have gone, but we still want from our police service the level of service we've always had. So I'm really going to have to work very hard to see if I can get every single penny I could lay my hands on and actually plough it into frontline policing and plough it into visible community policing. And I will fight any more cuts to funding of the police service in Kent because, quite frankly, Tony, the thin blue line in any police force is a thin blue line, and we certainly don't want it to snap.
No, I was going to say, if there was further funding cuts, I did read, was it something like 1,500 police jobs altogether went, didn't they? Was it 500 police men and women lost their jobs?
Well, as far as Kent's concerned, it's meant to cut off 1,500 people. That's a mixture of police staff and police officers to manage the budget cuts, because policing is mainly about people. 86% of the budget is spent on people. And if you've driven out your savings as much as you possibly can, then it's people's jobs. It's the only thing that's left to go.
But of course, as you say, you get to a point where you can't cut any more. What happens there?
Well, what happens there is I stood on a platform of fighting any more government cuts, and I will. I'm not a politician. I don't have a political party to think of upsetting. And I'm going to say to the people of Kent and to your residents out there and to you and everybody else, come on, folks. Together we can fight any further cuts to policing in Kent, because that's not what we want.
And assuming things go, and there are no more cuts, what other big challenges do you have? How can you fight, say, there seems to be more teenage crime these days, guns, knives. Is that worse than it used to be, or is it again just the media publicising these high-level cases?
Well, they're always publicised by the media, aren't they? Because bad news is always good news for the media. I hate to say that to you, Tony, but it is. It isn't true. Kent is a really, really safe place to live. We don't have gangs of youths, gun crime, knife crime on any level here in the county. It is a safe place to live. It is a safe place to bring up your family and to holiday. It's my home. I want it to be the safest place in England.
I mean, I think often in the bad areas, it's not actually a lot of people, isn't it? It's usually one or two small families that seem to cause most of the problems.
Partnership working's the key, isn't it? Of course, a lot of antisocial behaviour is not just a policing issue. It might be a housing issue, it might be a local authority issue, it might be no street lighting there, it might be any number of things, which is why the community safety partnerships across Kent working together do a really good job.
And I gather that you want to involve the youth more in the policing of Kent.
I certainly do. One of my promises was to employ a youth commissioner, a young person between 18 and 24, to act as the face of the Commissioner's office to young people. And believe it or not, I have had, at the moment, 110 applicants for the job. And the applications don't close until next Tuesday. So if anybody is interested in this job, it is a paid post. Please do. I don't care about academic qualifications. I just want a really special person.
And just a sort of final question, what would you like to achieve most in, say, the next year?
I will honour all my manifesto commitments. Everything I've said I'll do, I'll do. I never make promises unless I keep them. There will be greater visibility on the streets because we'll have more PCSOs on the streets. We'll have our mobile police stations on the street. I'm also around and about myself. I promise to be the most accessible and most visible police and crime commissioner in the country. I've got my little camper van. My little second-hand camper van that I'm touring around the county, meeting lots of people. It's called Ann Force One. I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist that. Someone suggested Ann in a van, but it made me sound like an ice cream seller, so I decided not to do that. So if you see me out and about, just come over and talk to me, because I want to know. I am your voice in policing and community safety in the county, and I want to know what you think. So just come and say hello, Ann, and have a chat.
Ann Barnes, it's been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for giving up your valuable time to join us here at 106.9 SFM.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.